Hi everybody, good evening. Welcome to another weekly current affairs session. So we are covering the news from 29th of June up to 4th of July. And this is where we look into the most important current affairs topics from the entire week. So this is an initiative by Pramukh Academy to make current affairs easy in for the students, so that even if they did not read the newspaper for the entire week, they can cover the most important topics relevant from the examination point of view. Here we cover the articles from Indian Express, from the Hindu, and also we take into account PIB. So let's begin with today's articles. So before I go into it, if you want the PDF of the current affairs, you can take it from our, or you can download it from our Telegram channel. The link is given in the description below. Go and join our Telegram channel and you'll get this PDF. Anyways, so let's begin with the current affairs. So today we are taking around 8 important articles from last week. The first two is the hot news, or the very relevant news of the entire week, that is India, Seychelles and Mauritius relationship. We know recently our Prime Minister Mr. Modi has visited Seychelles, and there he was awarded with the title as the guardian, and then he also addressed the parliament of Seychelles, and there were a lot of MOUs, around more than 100 MOUs which are signed between these two countries. And while he was there, he also visited the Prime Minister of Mauritius, and there also he made good uh, decisions, or he made good meeting with the Prime Minister of Mauritius. Next we have the meeting of Japanese Prime Minister with our Indian Prime Minister in Delhi recently, I mean day before yesterday. Then we have the surge in Gulf Remittances, a very interesting article, though this article might not seem that important or that relevant, because the surge in Gulf Remedy is talking about the surge in the month of April, but yet how it is relevant and how we can interrelate it with other topics, we'll look into it. Then we have certain good initiatives taken by the government. The first one is the Rural Internal Audit Portal. Then we have the Suman Roadmap. Then we have a development in Mongla Port of Bangladesh, wherein we Indians had a good, while we had a good relationship in with Bangladesh before the entire destabilization of government happened. Okay, we were planning to develop their Mongla port, and also were using the Mongla port, but now they have shifted it towards China, where they had an inclination towards China, and they have given the port to China for their use. That is, they have bypassed, or they have overtaken India's interest. Then we have this news of vulture electrocuted in Karnataka, though this is just a factual news of one virtual getting electrocuted, but yet it becomes very relevant. We are going to look into the article from that perspective. And then we have a very important achievement by India, that is Vikram 1 by Skyroot. So this is a private organizations who deals with space rockets and space launching of payloads. So let's begin with the first article. The first article talks about the India-Seychelles-Mauritius relationship, and in this article we are going to cover first about in the events or the news related to India, Seychelles, and then we are going to look into the news of India and Mauritius. So like I said, the Prime Minister visited Seychelles on 20, and he had this visit of 3 days, 27, 28 and 29, and he visited Seychelles to mark their 50th independence, I mean anniversary of independence. Around in 1976, Seychelles got their independence, and since then it has been 50 years. And to mark this milestone, our Prime Minister was called, and he made some remarkable achievements for the interest of the country while his visit in Seychelles. And the reason behind this invitation is not something very surprising, because right after 1976, when Seychelles got independent, India started maintaining a very good relationship with Seychelles since then. And India also has helped them with a lot of uh, aspects, or in a lot of criteria, wherein Seychelles had always been a good friend towards India or Indian government. Now, if you look into it, what exactly happened during his visit in Seychelles. First thing is that he became the first Prime Minister of India to address the National Assembly of Seychelles, and this is a very good landmark which we have achieved, because generally countries will not invite their guests to address in the parliament, because parliament is basically used by their own ministers or the government. But when you're inviting someone else to address in the parliament, then it is a remarkable achievement. So this is what. And while his visit, he along with him there were 32 Indian personnels from the Assam Rifle Regiment, and he also had this Indian Navy marching contingents, that is the military officers were went with him carrying their bands and performed during the anniversary celebration. And while he was in Seychelles, there were two Indian Navy warships. One is INS Tarkash, another one is your INS Iksha, which were docked in Port Victoria. And out of this good relationship, or we can say out of the courtesy, Prime Minister Modi gifted a first patrolling vessel to Seychelles under the name Lapswar, and the meaning of Lapswar is hope in Seychelles language. Along with it, he gifted 10 units of vehicle and 5 laser radial boats to enhance the maritime security over Seychelles or around Seychelles. And also he announced a line of credit of worth 1250 crores for the development of Seychelles. And there, if you look into during this news, you'll get these two images where he was given a title, that is Guardian of the Blue Horizon. And it is again a remarkable achievement, because when you mention about the Guardian of Blue Horizon, basically the government of Seychelles is telling India that India is the guardian in the Indian Ocean, and India gets the utmost priority when it comes to protection in the Indian Ocean. And also you will see that there was an image or where the Prime Minister was feeding some leaves to a tortoise, and this tortoise is the Aldabra tortoise, and this tortoise is the oldest living tortoise in the world. It is something around 190 plus of years of age, and this is the Aldabra giant tortoise species. So these are certain factual data related to Prime Minister's visit in Seychelles. We are going to look into detail what are the different MOUs he have signed and what are the different other events where which took place during his visit. But before that, just let's look into the geographical aspect of Seychelles. Now, if you see into this particular map, this is the Indian Ocean you see, and here we have our India, and on this side is the Southeast Asian country, and on this side you have the African country. And here there is an island which is called as the Seychelles Island. Just right of Seychelles Island, you will find the Maldives Island, and here you will find our Lakshadweep. Below Maldives, you have the Diego Garcia, which is a UK based island. Below Diego Garcia, you will find somewhere in, not exactly in the mid, but in a remote location, you will find the country Mauritius. So remember, we are going to talk about Mauritius also, where the Prime Minister of Mauritius visited Seychelles and met the Prime Minister of India. And India, we have a very good relationship with Mauritius also. However, recently the relationship got a little deteriorated because of various protesters which were again anti-India, and definitely it happened because of the influence of Chinese investment in Mauritius. And then here you have your country called Madagascar. So if you look into the location of Seychelles, it becomes strategically very important to counter the string of pearl. We know about the string of pearl in this region. So basically, if you look into the string of pearl in the Indian Ocean, Seychelles is one country which has been having a very good relationship with India, and also has given away some islands for building of airstrips or docking facilities. Also, if you look into Madagascar, we have our listening station in Madagascar, where the Indian Navy has set up their base for listening to various communicating devices in Indian Ocean. And also if you look into Mauritius, in Mauritius also we have our airstrip and docking facilities. So all of these plays a very important role for strategically countering any events which is to happen in future, if to happen in future in the Indian Ocean. So the location of Seychelles, Mauritius, Maldives and Madagascar become very important for India for its strategic development. And if you look into Africa, these are the African countries. So I can say that if India has to invest or has to build a relationship with these African countries, so these countries plays a very important role as a bridge connecting Africa with the Indian subcontinent or the Indian region. Why does India have good relationship with them? It is not something which has been built recently. The relationship is years old. Like you can say in around 1770, there were 5 planters who were taken to Seychelles for cultivation, and today around uh, 5 to 10% of their populations are Indian origin. So there's a huge diaspora of Indian origin who resides in Seychelles, Maldives, Mauritius. Like in these countries, you will see, particularly Mauritius, you will see there are a lot of Indian festivals, Indian cultural events, or the food habit or the dressing habits are very, very similar to India. Particularly in Mauritius, you will find a lot of people who have their origins in UP and Bihar, and thus you will see various cultural and festival events, like particularly Chhat Puja, which is a very popular festival in among uh, the Bihar people, is very much largely celebrated in Mauritius. So let's look into what are the different events which took place, or what are the different MOUs which the government signed. Okay, first, like I said, one fast patrolling vessel to maintain the security around the Seychelles region. Then he handed over 10 utility vehicles and a 5 set of laser radial class boats for Seychelles defense forces. He handed over 6 ambulances to the government of Seychelles, 6 ambulances to the government of Seychelles, and then he handed over 500 million ton 500 metric ton of rice to the government of Seychelles, and also he handed over 8,500 metric ton of cement to the government of Seychelles. Now let's look into what are the different MOUs he have signed. The first one MOU is basically people to people relationship, and it was signed between the Sushma Swaraj Institute of Foreign Service and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So what happens in this MOU, or what are the benefits the Seychelles are going to get in this MOU? Basically, in this MOU, it is people to people relationship. That is, there are exchange programs. Like for example, the students or the youth who are in their colleges can study in the Indian university, say in scholarships or free of cost or whatever, however the system has been set up. So basically here we exchange the people from one country to the another country, and we skill them, we train them, and also we enable the connection of cultures between these two countries. So it's an people to people exchange program or MOU. The second is the National Payment Corporation of India with the Central Bank of Seychelles, and here this is more of a financial and economic support between these two countries, where you have to remember a very important thing, that is India has come up to support Seychelles in developing their UPI payment system. Like in India, we are one of the most proficiency in UPI payment, or proficient in UPI payment, where various country has opted this model of payment from India. In the same way, India has shown interest or has given out interest to help in development of UPI payment in Seychelles. Just like we see how richer country or stronger country helps us in developing our economy, technology, science and tech, infrastructure, transportations and etc. Example, Japan doing it with India, where Japan has invested a huge sum of money for Indian infrastructural development or economic development. In the same way, we are also investing in Seychelles for their development. So remember about this UPI payment. Next, the third is the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, that is ICAR, with the Agricultural Department of Ministry, Fishery, Agriculture and Blue Economy. Here this is more about agricultural support in terms of technology, in terms of boosting their production, and also in terms of research and development for better productivity of crops. Then we have signed a treaty with Seychelles, that is the extradition treaty, and we know that how the criminals or the uh, any person who commits a crime in India and then runs away to a country wherein we do not have extraditory treaty with with those countries, and we cannot bring them back to our country. So it becomes a huge problem for the Indian government. The best example is, some of the good example of are like Nirav Modi and etc. So we have signed this extraditory treaty that we can extradite any person who have committed any kind of fraud or crime in India, and if he goes to Seychelles, and the Seychelles government can immediately transfer him to India without any, not without any as in like without any lengthy paperwork as such, because we have a extraditory treaty with them. Then there is an MOU on cooperation and exploration and uses of outer space for peaceful purposes, where Indian government has agreed to help Seychelles in launching of any kind of satellites from India, or any kind of space related help in terms of monitoring or geospatialing and etc. And the last is that there's an MOU which established the framework for bilateral cooperation for development of Seychelles National Hospital. So India has opted that India is going to help Seychelles build their national hospital. Now in this parliamentary address, Prime Minister Modi has spoken about the SID, that is the Small Island Developing States, wherein he said that Seychelles is a part of SID. I'm going to talk about SID also. He said that countries like Seychelles or other countries which are part of SIDs are the countries who have least impact on climate change. I mean, who have done least impact on climate, but are the greatest burden bearer. Why? Because these countries are small island countries, and because of climate change, sea level rise, global warming, melting of glacier, these islands are going to get submerged in the coming year. And thus he said that even though these countries does not have any industries, they do not release any kind of carbon dioxide or other harmful gases or greenhouse gases, yet these countries are going to face the greatest burden, because in the coming year these countries are going to get submerged under the water. So he gave a kind of a sympathy towards these people of this country by addressing about the SID. Now, what is this SID? These are basically the 39 sovereign nation with 18 associate, which are where 18 associate members are of United Nations, or I mean members of United Nations. And this was first recognized in 1992 under the Rio Summit. And basically, you can talk about that these countries are such as the Caribbean islands, the Indian Ocean islands such as Seychelles, Mauritius, Maldives, and then we have the Pacific islands such as Papua New Guinea or Papua New Guinea. Then we have islands in Polynesia and etc. Tuvalu. Okay, all of these islands, they are part of SIDs, and basically the group was formed so that these countries, they come together and put up their voice in front of the world, saying that we are in danger because of climate change and global warming. Because basically, in terms of country, if you talk about, these are the first countries who are vulnerable in terms of climate change, because all of these islands are going to get submerged if climate change is not handled properly, and if global warming, sea level rise is not handled properly. There are certain programs which has been established under SID, is basically the Samoa pathway in 2014, and recently, that is why I've added this article, recently in the month of May 2024, the Antigua and Barbuda agenda for SID to fight climate change and submergence of this sea, submergence of this islands because of what rise of water level in the sea. Apart from this, you see, India has always maintained a kind of a elderly brother behavior, wherein India has helped in defense related to these small countries like Seychelles, Mauritius, and Maldives in protecting their economical, zones or sensitive zones or economical special zones. And thus we have a program which we had towards the islands of Indian Ocean, that is the Sagar vision, and this Sagar vision has been upgraded to the Mahasagar vision in this Seychelles meeting. And what does this vision talk about? It basically focuses on maritime security, anti-piracy, illegal fishing, and maintaining the regional stability of this region. Basically, India acts like an elder brother in the surveillance of the water bodies around these countries, and if there is any threat, it is the Indian Navy who tackles and handles it. Now let's look into the relationship of India with Mauritius. Like I said you, while Prime Minister visits in Seychelles, he also visited the Prime Minister of Mauritius, and thus there was good meeting between those two people, because in the recent year we have seen how in Mauritius there was some rise of anti-India protests because of the involvement of, particularly, the Chinese government or the Chinese officials. Now if you look into India Mauritius relationship, it is very old, and it is also very, very, strong relationship. What is the importance of India and Mauritius relationship? Just similar to it, the importance are also applicable to Seychelles. The first is just like I told you, strategic location, then the maritime security such as, coastal surveillance, maritime aircraft, petrol vessel, etc. Then like I said you, it's the gateway to Africa. So this country acts like a bridge between India and Africa, and also, counter the Chinese presence in Indian Ocean. And lastly, you can talk about, because India has a good relationship with these countries, like I said you, because of the strong diaspora, like around 60 to 70% of Mauritius population is of Indian origin, and around 5 to 10% of Seychelles are basically Indian origin. Now then, there are certain pillars of Indian Mauritius relationship, or what are the different aspects of this relationship. The first one is the political relationship, that is India has always maintained a good tie up with the political parties of Mauritius, or good relationship with the political parties of Mauritius, wherein there was always the events of Indian officials getting invited to Mauritius, and also Mauritius officials getting invited to India in different, festivals, events, or programs. Then there is economic cooperation, where India has invested in development of various infrastructures in Mauritius, and also India has financially helped through monetary, or also help through services to the Mauritius government. Not just this, India has also given away a lot of, has put forward hands for the development of, military personnel in Mauritius. Then we have the economic cooperation, where such as trade, investment, and in economic cooperation you should remember about the CECPA, that is Comprehensive Economic Cooperation and Partnership Agreement between India and Mauritius. Then we have the development partnership, where we are developing a metro express project in Mauritius. We are also developing or building the Supreme Court of Mauritius, and also various social housing projects. Then related to defense, we have gifted patrolling vessels, drone aircraft, and also intercepting boats, like we have done to Seychelles. We have done this earlier to Mauritius, way earlier. And in technology wise, we have given them the digital public infrastructure. We have helped in building the capacity of their technology, or helped in building various infrastructure which could support the technology, and also has given support in terms of technological services through, Indians who went in to Mauritius and has set up various infrastructures and projects based on technology. Then we have the Sagar vision, like I told you, wherein India looks forward into Indian Ocean for the strategic importance, and also for better utilization of the resources, such as promoting of blue economy. What is blue economy? The economy which is generated from the oceanic water. It could be resources, it could be fishery, or any other means. And this Sagar project has been further upgraded to the Mahasagar project. And then with Mauritius, we also had, space cooperation, wherein they have used our satellites to, or spacecraft to launch few satellites into the space for better monitoring and extraction of datas. And lastly, yes, India plays like a guardian in the Indian economy for the development of blue economy, for maintaining of sustainable fishing and mineral resources, exploration of the water bodies, and also utilization of the water routes for better transportation and communication. Basically, you can say blue economy is an economy from where which is related to more about water, use of water bodies, I mean large water bodies, particularly oceans and sea. Now, these are certain Mauritius relationships or government initiatives, like we have discussed CECPA, which is an agreement within the African countries to focus on trade, goods and services. Then you have the Sagar and the Mahasagar for maritime security. Then we have the ITEC program. This is basically, this ITEC program is the people to people relationship, which I have just mentioned, that their students are going to come to India and get trained, get educated, or we are going to provide service through our people in Mauritius. So basically, where the people they interact or they or come in exchange for certain programs. Like recently, not recently, around 4 to 5 months ago, Japan has said that they are going to take around 50,000 people from Northeast and train them in various fields like hospitality, medical, and etc. And in return, they will, you know, send their people to India to develop or build infrastructures in India. Basically, this is an exchange program of people. Then we have the sovereign support, wherein India reforms strong support for Mauritius sovereignty over the Chagos archipelagos. And this particular island which you see Chagos, here you have Seychelles, here you have Mauritius, and here where you see Chagos is basically claimed by UK, and India has always refrained it, saying that the sovereignty of Chagos belongs to Mauritius, and we have built the new parliament for Mauritius government also. So this is all about the news. The next news is the 16th India-Japan annual summit, which happened recently. And here you see the Prime Minister of Japan, that is Takaichi, visited India and had a very good time with the Indian government, wherein both the government has signed a lot of MOUs and infrastructural projects or investment which was done by Japan in India. Huge sum of investment was done by Japan in India. And here this news became very popular because Prime Minister Modi said that I consider Takaichi as my younger sister, and thus this news was very much in highlight because of this particular statement. Now, what is this particular summit and what are the different events or aspects which happened in this particular summit? The first thing is that the both sides reaffirmed that free and open Indo-Pacific strategic priority for both these countries. Basically, it says that the Indo-Pacific region should be free and should be open for both these countries for building or setting up good relationships. Now, the theme of the summit was basically based on economic security, defense, technology, and free and open Indo-Pacific. Now, there are certain important decisions which were taken in this summit. The first one is that there were more than 129 memorandums, which was, memoranda of understanding, which was signed between these two countries for the development of technology, for investment, for development of artificial intelligence and industrial cooperation. And Japan has invested around $1 trillion in India, particularly for development. And this development or this investment particularly was done in Haryana, Odisha, Maharashtra, Gujarat, and most importantly northeastern region. Now, why northeastern region? Because if we look into northeast is the only geographically located region of India which has connectivity with the Southeast Asian countries. Apart from this, the lineage of northeastern people with the Southeast Asian countries are also pretty similar because they belong from the Mongoloid race, and thus the inclination of northeastern people towards Southeast Asian countries is very high compared to other part of India. So we can only make this idea of act east policy possible if the northeast is properly developed and the people of northeast builds up good tie with the Southeast Asian countries. And thus Japan has been investing in northeast for a long period of time, wherein Japan has also invested in the development or building of small hydro projects or industries. Like example, the semiconductor industry, which was getting set up in the region of Assam, has a big role. I mean, Japan has a very big role in development of the semiconductor industry in Assam. Though it is an industry which is set up by our indigenous local companies, but yet Japan will play a very important role for the development or enhancing of the technology for these industries in Northeast India. Now, let's look into what are the other things which are focused in this particular summit. The first, like I said, you free and rule based Indo-Pacific. That is, this is particularly to counter the Chinese aggression, particularly to counter the Chinese aggression in this particular region, wherein the Indo-Pacific region is to be used free on a ruled base, where no country's sovereignty will be hurt, and also the trade and commerce can be done in a peaceful manner. The second is that Japan along with India will jointly develop technologies in related to maritime security and maintaining the regional peace. Then free, prosperous and rule-based Indo-Pacific share of priorities for paving the way to peace, stability and progress in this entire region. Next, in the field of defense, India and Japan, they have signed the agreement wherein they are going to develop, or an agreement wherein they are going to make the reality of the naval radio antenna, okay, which will mark a new chapter in the defense technology in India. And you see, the Japan will act as a third country cooperator. What is this third country cooperator? That is, if India wants to invest in a country where there is a huge, anti-India protest, or the country does not have a good relationship with India, could be an African country, then what India will do? India will invest in that country through Japan. That is, India will ask Japan, or India will opt Japan or tell Japan to go and invest in that country on behalf of India, and Japan is going to do that. This is one kind of third country cooperative. That is, it helps in building good relationship with a third party through someone. If India cannot do it directly, they can do it through some other country, and particularly Japan has been doing this with India for a long period of time, and even in future Japan is going to do this. Like example, if I have to give you, that India, while it was developing the railway projects, I mean the bridge project in Bangladesh, Japan had a huge role in developing that particular project. Why? Because at that time at that time Bangladesh had a kind of an anti-sentiment towards India, and it was Japan who carried on the project on behalf of India until unless things get settled. And all of these third country cooperation is to counter basically the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. Now if you look into this map, you see the geographical location of Japan. Japan consists of 4 islands. One is Hokkaido, this is the northernmost part of island. Then you have the largest share of island, which is called as the Honshu Island, and it is in this Honshu Island you will find the famous major cities of Tokyo, Yokohama, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Then you have a small island which is called as Shikoku, and lastly this island which is called as Kyushu. Here this region is called as the Sea of Japan, and this particular, it's a peninsula, it's called as the Kamchatka Peninsula, and this is a peninsula which is in dispute between Japan and Russia. Here if you come down, you will find this particular street which is called as the Korean street, and Korea and Japan has a very good relationship, but if you talk about North Korea and Japan, they do not have a good relationship. And below Japan, if you come down here, you will find the South China Sea, and thus Japan, to build relationship with African countries or Southeast Asian countries or the Middle East, they will have to come through this route, wherein Japan, if they cope up with this stronger countries of this Indo-Pacific region, then definitely it will benefit them in their trade and commerce also. Now, why is it that Japan is investing so much in India, and why is that Japan is building good relationship with India? See, Japan is already rich. Japan, even if they does not help India, yet Japan will not lose anything, but yet we have a good relationship with Japan. If you look into independence, you will see that Japanese soldiers were also attacking Indian soldiers during those time period before the independence, but yet Japan has always been a good friend with India. The reason being, the market. Japan sells a lot of product. You see a lot of Japanese companies in India like Suzuki and etc., who has government tie-ups, and also there are a lot of Japanese product in India. So India is one of the largest market for the Japanese product. Then next we can talk about is the population. We know about Japan, how their demographic is basically shrinking because of large numbers of old age population and less numbers of young and energetic population. So basically the Indian population can act as a demographic dividend for the Japanese government. And apart from this, there are cultural ties, and if you look into Japan, they are culturally extremely rich and also very much rooted, and thus you see that Japan builds a good relationship with India. And lastly, we can say the most important is the countering of Chinese aggression in the Indian Ocean and southeastern region. See, after the World War, Japan, they say that they are not going to have any army for themselves. There are a lot of countries around the world who does not have a standing army. Japan also said that they are not going to have any army because of the devastating events of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But yet Japan had to invest in their defense budget just because of the Chinese aggression in this particular region, and also the influence of Chinese in North Korea, which created an aggressive environment in this region of Japan or around Japan. Okay, now what is the difference between Asia Pacific countries and the Indo Pacific countries? Now we have just here you have seen about the Indo Pacific. There was this word Indo Pacific. You might have heard about this word Indo Pacific. Now what is the difference between this Indo Pacific and the Asia Pacific? This is more important to understand it from the perspective of your prelims examination and also from your mains examination, wherein if you are getting question related to Asia Pacific, what are you supposed to write and what are you supposed to write when you get it from Indo Pacific? If you talk about India, you'll be usually referred to this name of Indo Pacific. Now, when you talk about Asia Pacific, it basically includes these Asiatic countries who are bounding on this Pacific Ocean, and also with the countries who are bounding with the North American and South American region. Now, when you talk about this Asia Pacific, you will see the countries such as Polynesia, Australia, you will see Japan, you will see the Papua New Guinea regions, you will see the Indonesian region. So these are basically the Asia Pacific countries, and these Asia Pacific countries are basically, like if India has to develop a relationship with Asia Pacific countries, the core purpose of this relationship will be more about economic development or trade and commerce. But when you talk about Indo Pacific, the core purpose of developing relationship of India with the Indo Pacific country is more about strategic defense. Okay, and now when you look into the countries of Indo Pacific, this Indo Pacific countries includes the countries of Africa on this side, includes the countries of the Arabian region, the Bay of Bengal, and also the countries of the Southeast Asian region, including Australia. See, it is a larger geographical area. This is comparatively a smaller geographical area which focuses more into this region, but here it focuses more into the entire regions, and that is why you will see in Indo-Pacific countries, they have also formed a formed a group or a cooperation, that is the Quad, that is India, Japan, Australia and USA. And when you read Quad, you will again come across this word Indo-Pacific, strengthening Indo-Pacific maritime security, deepening the infrastructure, enhancing the trade and infrastructure in Indo-Pacific region, or we can talk about strengthening the trade and commerce. Then we can talk about proper utility of resources in the Indo-Pacific region. So you'll come across this term called Indo-Pacific. So it includes all of these countries, even the African countries. So the basic difference between these two are that one is more of a strategic core functioning or focus, and the other one is more of utility of resources, trade and commerce. Okay, the next article is surge in Gulf remittance. Now here when you talk about remittance, you have to first understand what do you mean by remittance. Now when you talk about remittance, it is basically the money which is sent by NRI or foreign employees, that is Indian, to India for family support or investment. Like example, if I have an elder brother who stays in US and is sending money every month, some sort of money every month to me to run my family and also make some investment, little bit investment here and there, that is considered as a remittance. Now, however, the investment has certain criterias, but basically the money which is sent to run, family needs, that is called as remittance, sent by someone who is working in foreign. Now, what is this news? The news tells that in spite of the West Asian conflict, the remittance has surged to 16 billion in the month of April. Why has that happened? Because the people who are staying in the Gulf region, they feared that whatever money they have in their banks might get frozen, or the banks might get bankrupted, or the entire banking mechanism might get collapsed. So what did they do? They withdraw their money and send it to India. That is why you see that Western countries, in spite of being in conflict, the remittance has surged to 16 billion, which is a 70% increase compared to the same period last year. So the war-like condition has forced them to send a lot of money to India. Now, though this news is like, what is the point of this? That why it is such a news that even why that 16 billion dollars of remittance has been sent to India. So what is the point in it? There is just a normal texture, facts and text news. But yet, what is to be discussed? So we are going to discuss about this particular remittance and how it impacts our economy. Now, just tell me that if there are cash flow or remittance coming to India, what will happen to India? Can I say that is the rupee value will become stronger? Definitely. So when the rupee values become stronger, it basically adds on to the economic growth of the country. So we want that more remittance comes from foreign countries or comes from Indians working in foreign countries to India, so that the value of rupee becomes stronger and stronger day by day. And also this remittance also helps in development of the country's infrastructure and other aspect, economical aspect. Now, if you look into data, India is the world's largest recipient of remittance for the year 2024-25, wherein 135.4 billion was received in 2024 and 2025. And Gulf cooperation countries such as Qatar, UAE, Saudi, and etc., they alone roughly gave around 38% of remittance. Why? Because you see a lot of Indian going to these countries and working as in different sectors. But you see that this, let's just understand about it, that what are the people of India who goes to these countries, what are the major services they do. Most of them does the services of like plumbing, contractual workers, laborers, drivers, and etc. But think about it, that if this group of population, if had they been skilled or had they been trained very well, or technologically they were very sound, and this group of people goes to US or UK and then send remedies, can I say the remedies of this particular amount will double or might also triple? So this is what is important for us, that is, though there is brain drain happening, but with brain drain there is one positive consequence, positive aspect also, which is to be kept in mind, that is the increase of remittance from the foreign countries to India. Now if we talk about this recipients or this cash will also impact our BOP, that is the balance of payment, and ultimately it will impact or it will enhance the economic growth also. Now if you talk about balance of payment, there are two accounts. One is the current account, another one is the capital account. The capital account is very simple, which talks about investment, loan, forex, and etc. And in the current account you have these trade in goods which is a visible, which is considered visible, and you have this trade in services and income, and then transfer payment. And basically this remittance falls under the transfer of payments to the Indians living in foreign. So remember this, that how remittance will also impact our balance of payment, how it will impact our rupee value, how it will impact our economy, and also how it will impact in the strengthening of Indian presence in the global world. Now this remittance, in simple word, what is, like I told you, transfer of money by a foreign worker to any individual in their home country. This is basically regulated by RBI. Very important to remember the who regulates them. It is regulated by RBI, and the primary legislation to control this foreign exchange is FEMA. So you might have heard about FEMA a lot of time, wherein FEMA regulates or brings out new rules and regulation in terms of remittance. So FEMA is something to be remembered, that is Foreign Exchange Management Authority. And sometimes you will see that a person has been booked under FEMA. That is, if there is any kind of lapse or any kind of this fraud in remittance, or if there is any kind of investment through foreign, I mean if the remittance is used for terrorist funding or any kind of funding to instabilize the government, then they will be booked under FEMA, because the FEMA will regulate or will legislate the remittance coming to India. Okay, in 2004 RBI introduced the liberalized remittance scheme. That is, RBI gave us certain rules and regulations regarding remittance, and what it is that freely a person can send up to 250, I mean 2,50,000 US dollar per year. Only he can send 2,50,000 US dollar to his family per year, and he has to send, if he has to send beyond it, then he has to take permission from the RBI. And what is the purpose of this remittance? The purposes has to be very specific, like education, medical care, travel and tourism, investment and asset. Beyond that you cannot send the money. So when a remittance is sent from a country to India, they have to mention their purpose of that money also. It could be for family need, for education, or whatever. Like you cannot send this remittance in the name of funding some riots in the countries, or in the name of some protests in these countries. Also what happened, there are a lot of rich people staying in abroad, and Indian people, so they can they can take control over the government, or they can take control over any riots or protests happening in India. So that is why the remittance has to be controlled, so that there is no excessive flow of money which can be used later on by some anti-social groups to create instability in the country. And now there are certain prohibitions for this transaction, like you cannot use it for the purchase of lottery ticket or banned magazines, then trading in foreign exchange or paying forex trading margin, and also sending of fund to individual or entities linked to terrorism risks is limited. So remember in this article, what is the meaning of remittance, what is the importance of remittance, what is balance of payment, what is FEMA, and what is this liberalized remittance scheme. The next article is the rural internal audit. So in the month of June 28, the Rashtriya Gramin Vikas Sammelan, which happened in Delhi, introduced this particular rural internal audit portal, and under the initiative of Ministry of Rural Development. Now what is this portal? Basically you might heard about various schemes and programs which get launched in the rural region and are not efficiently run, or the money which get transferred in the name of the schemes does not reach to the genuine holder who is supposed to get the money. And also there is a lot of discrepancy in the functioning of this particular scheme. So this audit system, or the rural internal audit portal, is basically to increase the transparency of the governance in rural region, and also increase, I mean make the officers accountable, because this internal rural audit portal or the program will be using AI for auditing, and also will have a kind of a dashboard where everybody can view or review the auditing or the spending or the investment of various government schemes. Now what are the key features? The first key feature is that it will have a unified digital platform which will be end-to-end management of internal audit. A unified digital platform means that the platform will be designed for an end-to-end management. That is, once you start a particular project or program, that particular project will be audited or will be accountable, will have transparency until and unless it ends. It is something like you start something and then there's a time period of 3 months. Say for example, I'm starting a program in rural area, and the time required to complete this project is 3 months. So I will after 3 months I will have to put on the reason, or I have to put on or show the people, or have to put some kind of uh, end to the project. Like I've started it and then I will also have to end it. So it is basically an end-to-end management. Then there will be AI and advanced analytics, that is the analytics or the auditing system or the tools will be assisted with some AI advanced mechanism. Then geospatial monitoring, this is basically something which is done through map view models and centralized digital workflow, that is the elimination of paper or kind of, we can say, bulky office files. So here in this digital platform, all of this work will be done digitally, which will reduce the burden of paper or maintaining of files. Now what is the objective of this and how it will impact the government and accountancy? First, yes, it will digitalize and simplify the audit process. It will not be a humongous lengthy process wherein people will has to come together, sit for hours and days to finally audit and then finalize it. So if the auditing is done in an automated fashion, or the AI does it, then the uh, to make mistake, it reduces. The making of mistake is very less, and also it is reduced. Then create a centralized reposition, that is, like I have told you, one place where you will get the audit record, and also you can observe how the projects are going on, you can get the update of those projects. Paperless and sustainable governance, definitely, like we have discussed, it will enhance transparency. So basically, from manual to paper intense exercise which was happening earlier, where transparency was also not maintained properly, and also there was misplacement of damaging of documents. So this will reduce it, which will enhance the transparency and accountability of the government officials. And then there is the real time oversight, that is interacting dashboards. Dashboards are basically, that when you open when you open UPSC website, you first go into the home page. That is a dashboard where you get different information, different upcoming events, different achievements, or the other important things which are to be conveyed once you enter into it, and then you go deeper into for your particular purpose. So this is a kind of a dashboard where you will get the reports of different projects, upcoming projects, the spending of different money in different schemes, or the beneficial names will pop up, that who is supposed to get who is supposed to benefit from this particular project, and etc. So you'll have a dashboard which will make it a real which will help in real time monitoring of different projects and scheme. And then definitely a targeted delivery, that is the massive funds which have been asserted by the government to the people will not get misplaced or will not have any flaws, wherein the AI or the computer language will use it to allocate it to the exact amount to the particular individual, whoever is eligible for it. Now next you have the Suman roadmap. This is another news which was published in the Hindu and Indian Express. What is it? It was launched by the Health and Family Welfare, that is Suman roadmap 2030, during the 16th conference of the Central Council of Health and Family Welfare. Now this Suman roadmap is something related to reducing of maternity mortality. So basically, when you talk about maternity mortality, we are referring to a woman, okay, right? We are referring it to some woman. So you might have this thing in your mind that this particular roadmap is launched by Women and Child Welfare, Ministry of Women and Child Welfare, but it is not. It is launched by whom? Health and Family Welfare. So it is something not related exactly to the woman, but it is more about related to the health of the woman and the welfare of the family. Because if the pregnant woman is or has a better condition to live, or is in a welfare state, then definitely the family also prospers. Now, what is this project? Basically, the aim of the project is to push down below 70 per 1 lakh live birth by 2030. So basically, like I said, it is to reduce the neonatal mortality rate and infant mortality rate. Then to accelerate India's progress towards SDG goals, that is by 2030, we know about the SDG goal. In one of the SDG goal, we also have this aspect of women's and children's development of women's and children. So basically, this aligns with the SDG goal, which is supposed to be fulfilled by the year 2030. Now this entire program is encoded. You can use this for your mains, that is RMNCHA plus N framework. And what is this? This is basically reproductive maternity, newborn, child, adolescent health and nutrition framework. So you can use this in your mains answer. Now the key features of this is that 4 stage of high risk pregnancy tracking. Like before the woman is pregnant, just the moment she gets pregnant, that is in the quarter month, she will be tracked. Then after another 6 months she will be tracked. During the pregnancy she will be tracked. I mean during the delivery she will be tracked, and even after the delivery, her child, whether the child is healthy or whether the child is doing well or the mother is also doing well, they'll be checked. So it's this kind of a 4-stage health risk pregnancy tracking. That is, the risks will continue, I mean this tracking will continue even after the delivery. Then targeted high burden intervention, that is, this particular Suman Roadmap project has focused in 130 districts across the 13 states of India. Then you have the Suman Panchayat. This means that there will be a panchayat in this village region where the leaders or the heads will be responsible for the pregnant woman to avail the facilities or the benefits for the pregnant women. Then you have the bi-weekly ASHA screening. That ASHA are the workers who basically work in the village region, who takes care and caters the pregnant woman from the time they are pregnant till the time they deliver the baby. Not just till the time they deliver the baby, but also after the delivery of the baby, the ASHA workers stick to the pregnant woman so that the risks of mortality reduces. Then you have the AI enabled labor rooms. Then you have the Janani portal. Janani portal is basically the portal where they can avail their benefits. Also, they can reach out the officials or reach out any individuals for any help. Basically, kind of an helping portal. And then you have the Suman call center, wherein the women can avail, or help from the government officials or any ASHA worker or any medical officers or medical helper through just a phone call. The next is the Mangla port. Very popularly, this port is very popular to India, and India has been trying really hard to build a good relationship with Bangladesh to develop this port and also to use this port. This is the region of Mongla, in the regions of Chittagong of not Chittagong, in the regions of Chattogram, not Chittagong. In the regions of Chattogram of Bangladesh, this is Chittagong, sorry. So this is the Mongla port, and basically India was using this port, and not was using this port, India was supposed to use this port for transportation, that is connecting Mongla to Dhaka and then to Agartala to Northeast India. Okay, so you see, but recently what happened, Bangladesh, after the change of the regime or the change of the government, the Bangladesh government has inclined or has moved towards more into Chinese officials or government, and the entire incident which happened in Bangladesh, definitely we can come to a conclusion on that particular event, that it was something which was sponsored and supported by some third party. Definitely, countries who does not want this good relationship which India had with Bangladesh for a long period of time, and wants instability in this region, which will create problem and chaos for the Indian government also. And also the countries, they want to set up their presence somewhere near India, so that is why they had done all of this kind of instability in the region of Bangladesh. And recently, when Prime Minister Tariq-ur-Rahman of Bangladesh, who was recently elected, went to China for a meeting with the president of China, definitely there was news coming up that they are going to work into the Tista Dam project. They are going to work into the sharing of border of Bangladesh with India. And also in this particular meeting, Bangladesh gave away the Mongla port to China. That is, it was previously proposed by India, which was backed, and the port was given to China for economic development or uses of this particular port. Now, if you look into this Mongla port, is the second largest port of Bangladesh. This port is very near to India and is in this region, which is basically called as the Sundarban mangrove region. And you see that this particular agreement of Bangladesh with China to give away the Mongla port is a threat to India, because China earlier to there had their ports or developments in Chittagong, but now they can develop there, because China is something like once they get it, they are not going to leave it. They are going to invest so much of money in this region, or they are going to give debts to Bangladesh in such a way that Bangladesh will be bound to give away this particular port to China for a very long period of time. So India, you can say it is a failure for us that we were supposed to get this port for uses, but India was backed off and Chinese are now getting this port from Bangladesh. So this is one kind of a bad news or a concern news for India. The next we have the vulture electrocated, or you see uh, there's a news on in the Hindu where it says that a captive breeded radiotech white rampant vulture was electrocuted by a low tents close to Madhumalai tiger reserve, and this particular vulture was a captive breeded radiotech which was done in the Tadoba Andheri Tiger Reserve in Maharashtra. So basically, the vulture was released in this tiger reserve of Maharashtra and was electrocuted in Madhumalai, somewhere in Karnataka. So that is why Madhumalai Tiger Reserve and Tadoba Andheri Tiger Reserve becomes important for you to remember. So this white rampant vulture, Madhumalai Tiger Reserve in Karnataka, and Madhumalai Tiger Reserve is in the conflux of the Nilgiris. Basically, it is in Nilgiri. Tadoba Andheri Tiger Reserve in Maharashtra becomes important, and what more becomes important from this news is the Bombay Natural History Society. Now, if I have to sum up this entire news, the Bombay Natural History Society, that is BNHS, they released this vulture into the wild after a captive breeding, and they radio tagged, they tagged a radio on the vulture to track it. So this vulture was released in Taboda Andheri Tiger Reserve, but was electrocuted in where? Madhumalai Tiger Reserve in Karnataka. So the vulture traveled from Maharashtra to Karnataka and then died there. If we talk about this particular, it's an NGO, Bombay Natural History Society is an NGO, and in some way or other, we cannot exactly say, but it is one of the strongest or the most powerful NGO of the world. It was set up by Britishers in India, and since then it has been continuing. And this NGO basically works towards conservation of natural biodiversity in India and also around India. Like Ramsar site, also Ramsar sites are so particularly earlier Ramsar sites before the Ramsar declaration. The BNHS used to take care of the wetlands, but after Ramsar, BNHS particularly focused into the protection of other biodiversity such as animals, birds, and etc. So it's one of the oldest, not one of the oldest, I think it's the oldest NGO of the world. Now, if you talk about vultures are of basically 9 types in India, and vultures are not migratory birds to India. They are the birds which are found in the Southeast Asian region, particularly in India. There's a good numbers of vulture. They have not migrated from somewhere else. They are found in this particular region. Here, the 4 vultures, that is the white rampant vulture which we are talking in this news, the Indian vulture, the slender-billed vulture, and the red-head vulture, they are all critically endangered, and they are in the red IUCN list. But the braided vulture, cinereous vulture, Egyptian vulture, the Egyptian vulture is endangered. But here majority of this question, if you look into prelims, comes from white rampant vulture, Indian vulture, slender bill vulture, and the red headed vulture, which are critically endangered, and as per CITES they fall under appendix 2, and in wildlife protection they fall under schedule 1. So they are given utmost priority for protection. Now, why are these vultures very important? The reason being is that they are scavengers, and they basically maintain the ecological balance. They basically kind of clean the ecology or the forest. They eat away all the carcasses and the dead animals in the entire ecosystem. They basically prefer desert, savanna, grassland, okay, near to water sources, and they can fly up to 3000 meters in the sky and above the sea level. So if we talk about the distribution, they are absent in Australia and most oceanic islands, but they are found all over Europe, Asia, Africa, and the American region. If we talk about the conservation initiative, like we said that they fall under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act, there are 3 vulture conservation breeding in India, one in Pinjore, Haryana, one in Rani of Assam or Guwahati, near Guwahati, another one in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. And then Assam also has based a foundation which has launched the vulture safe zone in Assam, where they said that this is the zone which is safe for vulture and it's a protected zone. In the same way, you see in Jharkhand, in the district of Kodarma, they've set a restaurant that is called as Vulture Restaurant. I mean, they basically keep dead carcasses or dead animals wherein the vulture come and feast on it. Now, these vultures has been losing or has been in threat for a various reason. First one is very important. Remember, diclofenac. Diclofenac is a kind of a painkiller which is used in livestock. So what happens is that if you inject diclofenac in the livestock as a painkiller, and then this diclofenac gets injected over a time for a quite number of time, then what happens is that the particles of diclofenac remains inside the body, and when this animal die and this animal is left in the forest or left in the jungle, the vultures comes and consumes this dead animal, I mean carcasses of this dead animal. And at that time, what happens, there is an bio accumulation or biomagnification, that is the diclofenac from the livestock or from the carcasses enters into the vulture's body, and thus vultures, they suffer from heart attacks. So the use of diclofenac in Indian livestock was a threat to vultures, wherein in North India around 40 to 50% of vultures were basically dying because of the serious use of diclofenac. But yet you see, even today you will find this diclofenac being used in the livestock. Then next is habitat loss, that is cutting down of forests and etc. Next is the electrocution problem, or the the power lines or the high power lines which goes to this forest, and the vultures, as because they're heavy birds, like you will see other small birds, they can sit on these wires, and they do not get electrocuted because of their feet, which is not a good conductor. But vultures also, they have this feet which is not a good conductor, but as because they're heavy, so what happens, their feathers or the other parts of their body touches the wire and they are electrocuted. And then you have this unintentional poisoning and contamination of carcasses to kill the vultures and etc. And the last is a very good achievement, or a very profound achievement in space and technology of India, is the Vikram 1 sky route aerospace. Now, if you talk about this entire news in nutshell, you see in India the monopoly of space satellite launching or development is done by ISRO, right? Like in USA, it is done by NASA. USA, what did they do? They invited private companies or private parties to come and develop their space programs, and thus you see a name which is called as SpaceX. Elon Musk, you might have heard about this, where he uses reusable capsules, where this the capsules, they go into the space and then they come back again, they can go into the space. It is not a one time use. Like today we have this one time use where only the payloads goes into the space, the rest other part basically falls down to the earth. But this is a capsule which Elon Musk developed, the reusable capsule or the spacecraft. So in India too, India since 2020, India also gave away this permission to private companies to develop space research. That is, apart from NASA, okay, in 2020, India opened the space sectors to private participator under this mission called Agaman. Okay, so remember this mission Agaman, wherein India basically said the private participants also or can come, or private companies who are working in space research programs or development of space programs can come and work with the Indian government. However, to launch their products or to launch their vehicle, they are going to use Sriharikota, which is the only one, or the government government side, but yet they can develop. The reason being is because the private participation will bring a lot of funds, will bring a lot of money, and along with it they'll bring more R&D, research and development. And also the private companies, they can, you know, have tie-ups with the other foreign private companies, and they can produce better products. Though Indian NASA or say USA NASA or Indian ISRO also is doing well, but remember the private companies, they boost farther, or they accelerate in at a higher pace than the government companies. So India 2020 under the mission Agaman opened the space sector to private participation. And this is what is that the first private development of orbital launch vehicle was done by this company called Skyroot, which is an Hyderabad based company. Okay, and they have given the name as Vikram 1. So this is the achievement we have achieved in India. That is a company called Skyroot Hyderabad has developed a orbital launch vehicle under the name Vikram 1, and this is supposed to get launched on July 12th, and on 4th August from the Satish Dhawan Space Center, this is in Sriharikota. The maiden mission has been named Mission Agaman. Remember, it is not something new. It is something which in 2020 the Indian government has named it for the participation of private participants or private companies in space sector. Okay, and this is the first, India's first to set, it is the first privately developed orbital class rocket. So remember, it is the first privately developed orbital class rocket, and this is what is it? It is an SLV. Okay, it's an SLV. Now what is this SLV? Comment down in the comment section. So that's all for this week's current affairs. If you found it fruitful, please do comment your reviews and also subscribe to our channel and like the video. And if you want the PDF, like I said, you go to the Telegram channel, the link given, and you can collect the PDF from the Telegram channel also. So till then, take care of your health, take care of yourself. Hope to see you on next Saturday. Goodbye.